Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. I got a quick video for you today. I got some accessories for the Retroid Pocket 6 and I want to check them out. They sent over their official grip. These cost $15, and then also their $6 screen protector, and I'm hoping this one will make the glass front a little bit less smudgy. Now, I'm still waiting on my retail unit. It should be arriving any day now, and that one's going to be the orange color, so it should match this one. We'll do a different color comparison once that one arrives. For now, let's just focus on these accessories and see how much they improve the overall experience of using the Retroid Pocket 6. Let's talk about the grips first. These come in 4 different colors. In addition to the orange and transparent one that I have, they've also got a purple and a black model. The material feels like that same TPU plastic that we had on the Retroid Pocket 4 and the Retroid Pocket 5 versions of this exact grip, which were also $15. The only major difference I've seen just right off the bat is that this one has a bumpy texture to it, whereas the other ones were a more matte and powdery finish. So this one's got a little bit more grip and heft to it. And judging from the fact that both models have this exact same material, I would guess that the purple and the black one are the same as well. Now this looks very similar to the other models. It gives it an additional grip here, and then it comes down at the bottom to allow you to have more leverage as you're holding it, which is always a good thing. It's not going to be the same as holding like a full-on Xbox or PlayStation controller, which you really grip with your whole hand. Instead, this is really going to help all the way up to basically the top of your pinkies. That's usually where I hold it. The bumpy texture material only starts right around here, the grip part itself. So this part still has that same powdery finish that we had in the previous models, but otherwise it seems very much similar. One thing that I noticed that I'm not really sure why it's here, we've got these little lips on each side, and I have no idea what it's for. Initially I thought maybe it was to stop the triggers from going down too far, but as you'll see when we actually put it on, it doesn't really seem to make that much of a difference. So I'm going to start with the orange grip just because it's a nice contrast to the silver color, so you can see exactly where the grip goes. So very easy to install. You just pop it in place and then make sure the top goes over. It is not a very tight fit. I mean, it fits it nicely, but it's not something that holds it into place really hard. For example, I can just pop this thing out if I just twist it a little bit. That's because it's a TPU plastic. Same thing happened with the other grips as well. So no big difference there, but I do wish it was just a tiny bit stiffer. As far as the front accents, I like the fact that it dips in a little bit on each side right here, very similar to the actual design of the front plate. On the back, you can see that it gives you space for the entire grille matrix, even though this is only the place that actually needs the ventilation. And then of course, same thing with the top. So it's more of a design and aesthetic choice, I think, more than anything. It also reduces the weight of the grip altogether by not having additional material right here. It's also got cutouts for the back buttons, and honestly, even without the grip, I rarely touch the buttons, but now I feel like I'm going to completely ignore them. So if you're one of those people who felt like maybe you were going to touch this accidentally, this grip will help in that regard. Here's another look at that lip, and yeah, it's kind of odd. Like if you push the trigger down all the way, it gets nowhere close to where that is. So I'm not really sure what this is for in the first place. If you've got an idea, let me know. The only thing I can think of is that it's kind of a bottom shelf for my middle finger as I'm holding it, and so I've been kind of pressing my finger against that for additional leverage, but I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. Either way, it is a little bit odd. Now, as far as the grip itself, yes, it definitely adds additional heft to it. After all, this is the size of the regular grip, and then when you add this on top, it's about maybe a third bigger when it comes to that. And then of course, it gets a lot bigger here on the bottom. And so yes, now it's a lot easier to grip where it just positions right in the center of my palm. I feel like it still pushes my fingers in all of these natural positions, so it's still an analog stick centric device if you get the analog stick up top, but because we have this extra room, I feel like it's pretty easy to be able to shift my hand down a little bit to be able to play with the D-pad instead. So overall, in terms of the grip and feel, there's no surprises here. I've been using these style of grips from Retroid for several years now with their other products, and it feels very much the same. A little bit looser than I would like. It's pretty easy to pop it out, but otherwise it does improve the overall grip. Here's a look at the transparent grip, and I think this one matches really well with the silver one. It obviously is not a color match between the two, but I think it's a nice complementary overall aesthetic. It kind of feels very late 90s, early 2000s, much like the handheld does itself with this metallic silver finish. One of my favorite things about these official grips is they have nice cutouts that are perfectly in line with their buttons and their other ports and everything. So you're not going to lose any functionality by using this grip other than the fact that it does make it larger and a little bit more bulky. Let's do some game testing. We'll start with just a single stick experience like Sonic Superstars. This feels absolutely fine. It's very similar to just using the device on its own, but the grips do make it a bit larger and more comfortable to play for a longer session. I also prefer a grippy and bumpy texture on the back of my handhelds like the Retroid Pocket 5, which sadly is not in the Retroid Pocket 6, but these grips bring it back, so I do appreciate that as well. Now say you've got a stick-up-top device like I do, but you want to play a D-pad-centric game, maybe a classic retro game. This feels very good because I can shift my hand down a little bit more, and so it just feels a bit more natural to play a D-pad-centric game like this. And I also think that if you do happen to get a Retroid Pocket 6 with a D-pad up top, you'll probably enjoy this even more. Now let's move on to games that take advantage of both sticks like Jak and Daxter. So this one feels pretty good, like I have more leverage and I don't use the right stick that much, it's really just to adjust the camera, but I do feel like this is an improvement overall in terms of ergonomics. Now when it comes to first-person shooter games where I'm mostly going to be having my thumbs on the sticks at all times, this is probably the largest leap in ergonomic comfort. It honestly doesn't have to do that much with the sticks, but rather the fact that you're using the triggers at the same time, which can feel a little bit imbalanced if you don't have enough leverage at the bottom of the controller, and this seems to balance it out a lot better. I still think a taller handheld like the Odin 2 Portal is going to be a more comfortable experience, and I also think that just a regular controller will feel better when playing this type of game, but this definitely gets the job done. I would enjoy playing a game like Destiny Rising with this particular setup. When playing FPS games without the grip, this is basically the only time where I feel like it's a little bit lackluster, where the other situations will be just fine without the grip, but this one makes me feel like I need this grip to really fully enjoy it. I think it'll work in a pinch, but for the most part, if I am going to be playing a game like Destiny Rising and I've got the grip handy, I'm going to be putting it on my device. So the way I see it, I probably will be using the Retroid Pocket 6 on its own when I'm just taking it back and forth, between the studio and the house or wherever going on travel. This is probably going to be the ideal setup for me just because it works just fine for the majority of games that I'm going to be playing on it. Then I'll probably just leave a grip at home, and when I'm, ready to do something on the couch where I want to play an FPS game or something a bit more comfortable, then I will bust that out because, portability won't be that big of an issue at that point. And so this feels like a stay-at-home kind of grip for me. The big thing to keep in mind is that everybody has different hands in terms of size and the overall way that they hold handhelds, and so my ergonomic advice may not be the same for you, so keep that in mind. I wear medium-sized gloves, so I feel like I'm kind of middle of the pack when it comes to ergonomic comfort and particular tastes. So keep that in mind as you're going through here, is that you may or may not need a grip all the time or not at all. Now if you pick up a Retroid Pocket 6 with a D-pad up top, then that might be a different ergonomic experience. Now unfortunately I don't have one of those right now here for testing, but I do have my Retroid Pocket 5 in the official grip, and it's going to be a pretty similar experience. So D-pad up top, the sticks down below, and this still works out pretty well. In general, I do find this setup to be a bit more awkward to play when having dual sticks, just because we don't have that full leverage you would with, say, a PlayStation controller, but it does have that similar feel to it. This is one of the reasons why I prefer the Retroid Pocket 6 with the analog stick up top, because I feel like with this chipset in particular, I want to play more modern titles, which usually are going to be more analog stick centric. So this is a better fit for me, but if you want to play something a bit more retro focused, then I think you can still use the grip to get the job done, like you can see here with the Retroid Pocket 5. Now let's talk about the screen protector. I mentioned in my previous videos that the Retroid Pocket 6's all-glass front has a special coating on it, which makes it just a little bit smudgier and harder to wipe clean. Now, I've been mitigating that a little bit with a special microfiber cloth that has a bit more texture to it. This seems to work a little bit better, but it's still not perfect. It still takes more time to wipe this down than it does other devices. And so my thought was to use a tempered glass screen protector like this one to improve the overall experience, because it's going to cover all of that coating. But I am a little bit concerned about how this is going to affect the overall controls by adding an additional layer of glass. So let's test all this out. Before we put it on, let's establish a baseline of what it's like to get this all smudgy and then wipe it clean. So let's pretend like I'm playing Fortnite or something and I'm just, getting smudges all over it. And I'm moving around and navigating menus. And so this is the typical smudginess that you will see over time. And you can see it is pretty darn bad here. Now, most glass devices are going to have smudginess to them, but the big issue here is that it's harder to wipe off. And so again, here with my preferred microfiber cloth, I can wipe it clean. You can see that I am wiping these smudges free. It takes a little bit more pressure than I would normally have to do. And of course, I'm using a special cloth. but in general it is something that I can wipe clean with a little bit of elbow grease. By contrast, if I use just the regular eyeglass cleaner that I will usually use as my microfiber cloth, you can see that it somewhat buffs out, but it takes a lot more action. I would say like I have to rub this twice as much as normal just to get it a little bit clean. To start, I'm going to buff the device itself as much as possible to get all those smudges out of here, and then we're also going to clean the glass. Now, this kit that was sent over to me by Retroid, it doesn't have any cleaner on it. It has a dry glass film and then a microfiber cloth, and that's it. So I was expecting some wipes, but I'm not seeing them here. Given the fact that I can see just little specks and little pieces of like dirt and stains on the glass itself, I'm going to have to wipe this myself. Thankfully, I do have some wipes I can use. I got a couple different options to choose from. I've got some standard 70% alcohol wipes, but then I've also got these electronic wipes I picked up about a year ago. Now, these don't say the percentage of alcohol in them, but it does say that the first ingredient is water and then alcohol. So my guess is there's more water than alcohol, which means that the alcohol itself is probably going to be 50% or less. So I'm going to use this one just because I'm worried about affecting the coating on this device in general by using something at 70%. So let's try this first. Okay, so far I've used the electronic wipe to wipe it all clean, then I used the Retroid microfiber cloth just to buff away everything and dry it out, and then I used my own microfiber cloth again just to get any sort of additional lint, and then I immediately put the screen protector on top, and that's because I'm trying to trap any sort of air underneath so there is no dust particles that are going to be flowing around as we talk. Now, applying the screen protector is pretty simple. You just need to remove this adhesive covering on the back and then just plop it into place. And given that we have so many nooks and crannies, it's pretty easy to line it all up. Now, to make it easier, I use the hinge method. So I'll use a piece of masking tape right here to create a hinge on this side so that I can just open it up, pull the thing, and then plop it back down. And so first thing, I'm just going to align this as much as possible. Then I'm going to take the tape and then just put a couple pieces along the side. Okay, first thing I'm discovering is that this tape does not want to stick to the tempered glass screen protector, which is honestly a good thing. That means that it might repel smudges at the same time too. So this is kind of a pain in the butt. I don't think my hinge is actually going to stay in place. You could use a stronger tape, but I'm worried about residue and everything else. So we'll just see if this works. If not, I think I can probably just eyeball it anyway. Okay, so let's just open it up and then plop it down. Okay, so I put it in place, but I found that the tape immediately came loose, so I just had to eyeball it. Now, the way that I did is I lined it across the bottom, and then I just kind of pressed it on top. And I'm finding that there is just a tiny little gap here at the top compared to the bottom. So I perfectly aligned it on the bottom, but that made more of a gap on the top. So I think that if you are going to be planning this in, instead just try to line it up across the different buttons here. You can see that by the top, there is a bit of a gap here at the bottom compared to here where it seems almost perfectly centered, at least at first. But again, I was lining it up to this bottom part, and that seemed to be a little bit too much. So line it up to the buttons in general. I think it's going to look better. Okay, so now that I have it applied, let's talk a bit about how it feels and the smudginess and whatnot. So let's do the same thing where I'm just going to put a lot of smudges on it here just to try to get it to feel like, you know, I'm playing Fortnite or whatever, I'm navigating through menus. And so now let's look at the glass itself, and it's pretty hard to pick up on. You can see here that my camera can't really see these smudges, a little bit of it here and there, but it is nothing like how it was previously. I'm also able to wipe it off very easily, much like you would any other retro handheld. So I really appreciate the fact that this just feels now like a regular glass front compared to that weird coating that we had. So I think just in terms of texture and feel, it is an improvement. Now, as far as the buttons and everything else, it feels very similar. Like the sticks are the same, and the D-pad and the face buttons are very similar as well. I can feel that there's a little bit of a lip right here, but it's very, very slight. If anything, it makes the travel overall just feel a little bit lighter because you can see here that it just doesn't go down as far because we've got that glass surrounding it. These are all very minor differences here, and it's one of those things where only because I was just using it a few minutes ago without the glass screen protector that I can even tell a difference between the two. The only one that's really a major change are going to be your function buttons, because these already had very light travel to them, and now they're basically flush with the rest of the case, so they do not stick out as much anymore. So I don't like the feel of the select and start buttons, for example, compared to how they were without the screen protector itself. If I had more than one screen protector, what I would probably do is try to reapply it, but this time by centering it on the select and start buttons, or maybe the analog stick hole altogether, because I can see that it's just a little bit off. That's going to bother me a little bit, but I'll just probably order a new one myself and then just apply that later on. It's only $6, so not that big of a deal, other than the fact that I got to pay for shipping too. So in terms of the screen protector, I think it's good and bad. Number one, it's obviously protecting your device if you're worried about that, but then also I love the fact that it is a lot less smudgy and easier to clean. And then also I don't really like the feel of these function buttons in particular. That's probably the only misgiving I have about the whole setup. And so in general, I think that it's probably an improvement and worth trying out if you're going to be picking one of these up and you don't mind spending an additional $6. One last thing, I just wanted to test how it felt with the new screen protector plus the grip, and it's basically the same. Like, it's not actually going over the lip of where the screen protector is, so it doesn't make it any tighter. I was hoping that that would be the case, but no, it's just kind of the same thing. So there we go, just a quick recap of some of the accessories that I tried out here from Retroid. I think that the grip itself is going to be good if you're going to be focusing on twin stick shooter games or something that relies on the analog sticks and the triggers at the same time. This is a big difference. For everything else, it does make it overall more comfortable, but it also adds a lot more bulk. As far as the screen protector, I do think it improves the overall smudging, but it also makes slight compromises to the feel of the controls as well. So my advice would be that if you are going to pick up the Retroid Pocket 6, consider getting the $6 screen protector and then try it without the screen protector first, see how you like it, whether or not you can live with the smudging, and then put the screen protector on and see which one you prefer. So definitely get used to it without before you put it on. Anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm still waiting on that retail unit that's supposed to be orange or a yellow color, and so I'll do a color comparison soon. And I'm also thinking about making a dedicated Retroid Pocket 6 starter guide. I've got an Android handheld starter guide that will work fine, but it's always good to make one specifically for each console. So let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments down below. As always, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful. We will see you next time. Happy gaming.